Let's look then at the value of compliance. Compliance isn't just about avoiding penalties, it's about making proactive choices that protect people, reputations, and long term performance. ISO 23907 provides a benchmark for doing things the right way, with traceability, validation, and a proven reduction in injuries and environmental impact. In a healthcare system facing constant pressure, aligning with that gold standard is a choice that speaks volumes about culture, values, and care. How does ISO 23907 link safety and sustainability?
As we've touched on a couple of times, it increases the testing and cleaning challenges over and above any single-use item. Obviously, a single-use item does not need to be cleaned post-process. It offers the NHS an opportunity to totally eliminate single-use plastics, which is obviously one of the opportunities that route to net zero brings, that strategy brings to us. We've talked about the life cycle CO2 associated with single-use and reusable. Let me just talk you through that in a little bit more detail. If a single-use container is manufactured every time because it's disposed every time, so basically manufacture of pellets, whether they're recycled components. Normally what you do with plastics, you either use virgin or recycled. A lot of suppliers now are using part recycled with virgin plastic, so the CO2 element with that. Then there's the injection molding process, which generates CO2. Then there's the transport to wherever it gets to. Then there's in use. And then there's the incineration, the disposal, end of life. So basically, by choosing a reusable against ISO 23907 Part 2, you have that opportunity to reduce, I would say, a minimum, if you look at the recent study, of 80% from a CO2 standpoint.
What does it say about an organisation when they choose ISO compliant containment?
They put safety of their staff at the forefront of the decision making. They obviously are showing that safety is above financial considerations, and I would challenge that there are any financial benefits of choosing a system that doesn't comply with ISO. And I think it's about that total cost of ownership, how you manage that process to ensure compliance and safety with the standard, pass that on to the likes of Sharpsmart to do that. It's also obviously the sustainability piece to choose a reusable. And when I say a reusable, I'm talking about a reusable that complies with the Part 2. And also other considerations around efficiency. I mean, utilizing a reusable container really focuses you on that life cycle usage, how you store it, how you move it around the facility. And when you get it back to the facility as well, you actually also have access to, in a safe way, you have access to those contents. So, we can do audits, we can see whether there's compliance in terms of disposal, but there's other areas that we will be looking at in future, the whole industry is looking at, are there things that would normally be disposed of that could actually be pulled out of the waste stream? And I use things like single-use medical instruments that are used in operating theatres now that are actually being reused. So the introduction of a reusable gives you that future opportunity to get access to some of those resources that are in the waste stream that would have ordinarily, if they've gone in a single-use bin, gone straight for incineration. So the sustainability piece, the safety piece, the compliance piece, the efficiency piece, and generally what we try and do is actually bring this all together with an education approach around sustainability, safety, compliance, and efficiency in that education competency development. So I think there's many benefits to that reusable system.
And how has Sharpsmart built systems that don't just meet but exceed these standards, and why?
I think if you look at the history of Sharpsmart and Dan Daniels, who actually is the founder and still the chairman of the global business, it was actually designed. It's the only engineered uh, sharp safety device container on the market today. So when Dan actually set about this on his journey 40 years ago, he actually sat down with in Australia, sat down with health and safety, occupational health, infection control, risk assessment, and actually was astounded by the amount of needle stick injuries that were actually uh, evident in the healthcare workers of Australia. And they studied every type of injury. And then they actually said, how could these be eliminated, not just by the container, but by the handling of the Sharps container? And they designed a system that had all these passive safety systems like overfill protection, a seal that actually stopped liquids from leaking out the container. The materials that it was made out of were, and I would say, impenetrable by the needle technology that's out there today. So we actually started out with the purpose of making healthcare safer, and it sits on Sharpsmart's logo. That is at the forefront of everything that Sharpsmart do, in terms of not just Sharps but healthcare waste. Is the purpose is to make healthcare safer, and I think that those principles have underpinned the drive to get a standard and the development of that ISO 23907 Part 2.
And what's the value of compliance when it comes to safety for healthcare staff?
I personally, and I think I said this earlier, you can't put a value on safety. I think it's an absolute non-negotiable to do the maximum that you can at the point of care to minimize or eliminate needle stick injuries. The HSE mandated it, and we all have to ensure that we fight for it despite the lure of cheaper systems at a time when, let's be honest, we all do have to save money, whether it's the NHS or it's commercial organisations, but you cannot put a value, you cannot compromise on safety. It's an absolute non-negotiable in my mind, but anybody who was connected to the development of whether it's ISO 23907 Part 1 or similarly Part 2.